Welcome back to Thrive America. I'm your host, Brent Brooks. I'm joined by Bill King. Bill is a co-founder and CEO of Axiom Franchise Advisors, and this is our second segment. And right before we talked, we could just kind of scratch the surface on what you do, Bill, and learn a little bit about some of the benefits of getting a franchise. So I want to jump into some of our talking points here. In your mind, what is the hottest franchise or business opportunity? Say if I were to come to you and say, hey, I want to get a franchise, what's the hottest one to get? What's the best one I can?
You know, it's probably, Brent, the most often asked question of our consultants. And our answer is almost always the same. You know, one thing that we do as consultants, and perhaps our biggest value to you, is to make sure that you don't get involved with the hottest franchise if you don't have the resources and the skills to be successful in that business. It may be the one that's more prominently out there, if you will, but you may not be the person to operate that business successfully or to protect your investment in that. Now, the other way to answer that question might be, what are the biggest growth sectors? And of course, food still remains to be the largest in an individual franchise sector of business. But the real growth that's being recognized right now is on opposite ends of the age spectrum, as odd as that may sound. At one end of it, it's all the way down into and including child development. You know, we all understand the need, especially right now in these kind of compelling economic times, that you've got a lot of dual income earners in the household. Their first concern is, who's going to watch the children? How do I provide a safe environment for those kids? So it's about nanny services so that they can both be engaged in the workforce. And then at a certain point, you start to give a different attention to that kind of activity, and that is, should I be paying a nanny while the kids are watching Xbox 12 hours a day? Maybe I need to prepare them better and more competitively to get into the right schools, all the way up to when your concern ought to probably be focused on whether or not your kids can score well on SAT and ACT tests. So child development, youth development, if you will, is becoming a huge growth area, both with nanny or care services, and as well as educational and child development. All the way to the other end, flip it all the way to the other end of the scale, is senior care. And easy enough to understand if one recognizes that we're undergoing the largest shift now in U.S. demographics, and that is the baby boomers are all coming of age in one decade. By the end of this decade, there will be 70 million seniors. And this is just a huge proportion of one age category with very, very specific needs. When you start to think about that category, an awful lot of this generation didn't provide to finance, if you will, or save to put our parents in the assisted living center, $60,000 to $70,000 a year. We're the next candidates for that, and therefore there's a whole industry that's grown to accommodate the needs of providing for seniors, mainly on a non-medical basis, but not limited to necessarily, to allow you to stay in your home. And there are great benefits beyond the economics of that, psychologically and otherwise. People want to remain in their domicile. They're more comfortable there. And you know, for the point that they're just more functional and more comfortable staying in those kinds of environments, and then having somebody come, and whether it's a couple hours a day or all day, to do light housekeeping, errands, drive them to their places of need, the grocery stores and whatever that is, all the way to, in some cases, actually dispensing medical services. So opposite ends of the age spectrum, that's where the growth is, not necessarily the hottest franchises.
So the emphasis that Bill is making is some of the industries that are going to see or seeing a lot of attention, a lot of traffic, and so forth. So say if I was going to come to you and I was wanting to start a franchise in one particular industry, what would that process be like? And then what sort of successful attributes would you look for, or would my potential franchisor look for in me? or in a potential buyer? In other words,
As a franchisee candidate?
yeah, if I was a candidate,
Sure.
and what qualifications are there across the board, entrepreneurial kind of behaviors and attributes and culture, that kind of thing?
Well, I think there's a couple of universal attributes, and then from there it gets specific to the franchise system. But universally, most of the successful franchise systems are looking for what we call the right kind of entrepreneurial DNA in a candidate. And those things obviously include that you have the kind of personality where you're very engaging, you're a very confident, self-assured person. You have a high energy level and a high enthusiasm for, whatever your passion is. And more than anything else, you are absolutely, absolutely undeterred to achieve your success. You're a person that, given any set of circumstances, will overcome because you are just driven to the finish line in terms of being a successful owner-operator. Type A's, they like to see, for the most part, some kind of entrepreneurial skills that would include on the short list that you have some management experience, sales, marketing, business development. And of course, you don't need to be a specialist, you don't need to be deep in any one discipline, but if you understood operations and finance, that's all plus plus. But at the real top of the list, it's going to be sales, marketing, management, and business development skills, because at some point in your entrepreneurial life, you'll wear all of those hats. And some of them you'll wear simultaneously, so that's a challenge. From the financial resources, it varies. It's so wide depending on the type of franchise format and the requirements. But typically, one should be prepared before they even begin to investigate whether or not they are qualified for a franchise system to have about $50,000 liquidity, a net worth between $200,000 and $250,000, and good credit for the ability to finance even more than the cash portion of the business.
Bill, we're going to bring you right back, and I want to know a little bit more about the financials and what it takes to prepare yourself from a financial
Sure.
Standpoint to talk to you and possibly have the opportunity to get a successful franchise. All right, we'll be right back with Bill.